No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills is something we would say if we were a Bills podcast. However, we are not. We are a San Francisco 49ers podcast. This is the Sprint Ride Option podcast, part of the Blue Wire Hustle Network. My name is Andrew Pasquini. I got Jason Aponte to my right. Jason, it's been a few days. How you doing? I guess we'll start with a question. What's your opinion on the TV show Friends?
Garbage.
Because somebody's getting roasted on Twitter right now.
I don't care if I get canceled for this one. This is like the best take I've ever had in my entire life, and it's absolutely true. It's not an opinion. Unnecessary reunion. No need for any sort of rerun watching. Inspires no sort of rewatch in any way that it implies greatness. Just bad all around.
It has aged poorly. Like we were just talking, like I could see how it was funny in 1980s, 80s, 90s. I don't know what year. 90s. I don't even care enough.
90s. Don't do that.
90s. I don't know. I don't care enough to know. I can see how it was funny in the 90s because I feel like the 90s were just not a funny time. But then again, I was born in the 90s, so I probably don't get a lot of references from the 90s. That's okay. But it's not a funny show in the year 2021. Or I guess it wasn't a funny show in 2016, which was the last time I tried to watch it. So there we go. We got our Friends talk out of the way. We wanted to get that out of the way today.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I've wanted to talk about this entire time. You know, I got my second shot today, and apparently it awoke my fat gene. I didn't know that my fat gene needed to be awoken. And when it did, I started to spit facts, and people don't like it when you spit facts on the timeline.
I mean, we could have other conversation like who's a better deep threat, Tyreek Hill or Randy Moss. That was a conversation I saw today.
Oh my God. You know, like I just want to know who works at PFF, how old you are. The recency bias in that statement is disgusting. It's so bad, honestly. And it's funny because when you put up those stats from Tyreek Hill recently, they still pale in comparison to Randy Moss. Pale. And let's hold on. Let's list the quarterbacks that Randy Moss has played with. Jeff George, Dante Culpepper, Randall Cunningham, MVP. Not trying to slight him.
Jamarcus Russell.
Tom Brady. That one's good.
That was good.
Alex Smith.
Was he with Matt Hasselbeck? Was he on the Titans at that point?
I don't remember.
I'm going to give PFF credit because the second I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's 100% like something they posted knowing they're going to get attention all day. They just said, hey, what's the most ridiculous football take you can come up with? And that guy said it. They put his name on it. And they're just like, everybody's going to talk about PFF today. That's what it felt like.
It's just really a lack of awareness, history for the game. Also, that's why when you tell people it's hard to compare eras, it's because you weren't outside. You weren't there. You didn't watch Randy Moss obliterate the Dallas Cowboys by himself. Three catches, 173 yards, and like three touchdowns?
Mm-hmm.
What? And imagine if you paired Randy Moss with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Stop it. Everyone stop the nonsense. Please, man. Good God. There. You got me all fired up. Let's go.
We are locked in, ready to go. We got our conversation to wake Jason up a little bit. He got that second vaccine. I just wanted to make sure he was 100%. We're going a little early today. We're going to be we're going to be quick today for the live folks because apparently there's a shooty hoop game going on at some point today that involves two teams that a lot of people like. So we wanted what?
Baloncesto in Spanish.
I don't know.
Basketball.
Is that how you say basketball?
I'm Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took 2 years of Spanish trying to get a good grade because that's what schools do is they teach you to get good grades and not really trying to teach you anything of value. But that's our public school conversation. That's for another day because we are here to talk about. We really started this just off the rails. Let's talk about some OTAs. Some guy threw a football in Santa Clara last week. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I was 3 weeks ago. Not at the field. Trey Lance was throwing footballs at.
This guy.
I guess the point I want to start with because I mean there wasn't like a bunch of tape But Trey Lance is already out here getting people jobs. Do you see how he is working? They said his best throw of the day was a 15-yard bullet. John, we really appreciate the donation. We love you. You've been here since day one. We love it. I read up on it because there wasn't a lot of video and all that stuff about the pro day, but the thing that I read in all the articles was his best throw of the day was a 15-yard bullet to Marquise Lee. That got the Niners so excited that they're like, Marquise Lee, you are now a member of the 49ers. So Trey Lance out here has earned at least one job.
Yeah, and for Kali who's asking where I got my Trey Arias shirt, Warriors World. I'm not certain if they have any left, but shout out to Andy, man. He's the man. He always hooks me up with the gear and everything as well too. So that's where I got it from. But yes, he did get Marquise Lee a job. And I think we should talk about that real quick before we get into it, because this is a better conversation. I feel like, when Marquise Lee gets brought in, our concern had always been, okay, who's going to be in this wide receiver 3 spot? Now, that's kind of looking like it's going to be just I don't know what the word is, a compilation of people. It doesn't look like it's going to be one person. And you have to remember, the 49ers run 3 wide receiver sets, and this is, thank you, Jordan, among the least in the league. Right. Mm-hmm. And when you see Kendrick Bourne being that third down guy, that was because he was pressed into duty. Here's my issue with it. I think Marquise Lee is a fine addition, and you're adding up enough people where 2 or 3 people can fill this position. But here's what scares me and bothers me a little bit. God forbid something happens to Debo. God forbid something happens to Ayuk. God forbid something happens to Kittle. Now you are looking at a hodgepodge of Travis Benjamin, Jalen Hurd, Jawan Jennings, River Craycraft, Richie James, Austin Watkins Jr., I'm sure I'm missing people. Marquise Lee,
the one we're talking about.
The one we're talking about. So honestly, I understand the idea of bringing him in. And, when he was over there in Jacksonville for those years that he was actually playing well, it was with Blake Bortles. Played outside, could be a big slot option. But at the same time, has to be a little bit worrisome about the depth as wide receiver at this point. Richie James flashes in games, but unfortunately, the depth is a little thin at wide receiver, and you just have to hope and pray that everybody's healthy at this point.
Yeah, we're definitely it's like baseball, right? Closer by committee is when you don't have a closer. The Niners don't have a third receiver. It's like it's going to be a third receiver by committee. Whoever it's a good position to be in, I think, because if you just eliminate injuries, right? Like we obviously can't do that, but let's pretend Ayuk and Debo have a healthy year, which is something we definitely hope. Shanahan, he knows his offense. He knows who's playing well. He knows who to get the ball to. So realistically, Shanahan has, and obviously all, 8 of those guys you listed aren't going to make the roster. But even if it's down to let's say Lee, Watkins, Richie James, and River Craycraft, I just picked 4 random names out of that list, the ones I remembered off the top of my head. So don't be like, what about that guy? Just name names. Right. Is then Shanahan can spend that week looking at okay, who looks good this week? Who looks good? How are we going to fit this in against this specific slot corner and things like that? So I think obviously if we ignore the injury aspect of it, it's a good spot for the Niners to be in. Now, obviously injuries make that a lot more complicated because the issue is none of these, third receivers by committee are going to be second receivers at any point. I feel like that's why Kendrick Bourne was kind of nice to have. If you need him to pop outside, he'd be fine at it. He'd be good. So I think that's where that really hurts the Niners. But it's going to be one of the more intriguing camp battles, if we want to talk about camp battles at this point, is watching all these guys rotate. We didn't even mention Kevin White, the best receiver on the team.
According to some people in this roster,
according
for sure.
to some people, yes, we can't forget Kevin White. Also, I love Kevin White. Kevin White is like Kelvin Benjamin to me. I just love them for no reason. Well, Kelvin Benjamin, I have a reason. FSU made the catch to win the game against Auburn. Great, one of my favorite games I've ever watched. So yeah, Kevin White's just one of those guys. So I'm just going to defend until I can't defend him anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, receivers are going to be interesting. One of the other plays I wanted to talk on too, because I don't want to spend this whole time talking about just Trey Lance throwing a football. Diamador Lenore made a pretty nice interception. A video we saw, people multiple things with it. People wanted to be like, "Oh, Trey Lance making mistakes." No, that was a Diamador Lenore. I'm practicing on saying his name right. I feel like I'm doing good.
Isn't it? It's not Lenoir.
Maybe my handwriting is poor, but I have Lenore.
Okay, I
But
just wanted to make sure because Lenoir is the way that I've been saying it, and I've been probably saying it wrong.
yeah, it's on the 49ers website. We'll double check. Make sure. Now I'm curious if it's my handwriting. No, it's Lenore.
Lenoir.
Luh-Noor. Lenore.
Lenore.
Diamador Lenore. It rhymes.
Okay.
Diamador, remember Diamador? And then it rhymes with Lenore. Um,
Nice.
People wanted to talk, hey, Trey Lance already throwing interceptions, Lenore was just dominant on that play. Like
Yeah.
Watkins, I believe the receiver was Watkins,
Austin Watkins.
and Lenore just dominated. And it's not something like watch all this OTA rookie minicamp stuff with a grain of salt. This is all their first day as a pro. There's a lot of things going on. So I don't even want to sit here and say an amazing play by Lenore because people are still trying to figure out their feet. I don't want to say bad play by Watkins but it was pretty cool to see Lenore do that on his first day when everybody's there watching Trey Lance.
One more thing too is what, the Seattle fans tried to, pick apart. In one-on-ones, you don't hold the ball and run it. You have to throw it. It doesn't matter. So it's not a bad decision. Lenore just made a good play, right? And to, turn it into something that has also been angering me lately. I forget who it was on 7-on-7s when Tim Tebow was in camp with the Jets. They said that he used to tuck it and run and scramble. You don't scramble on one-on-ones and you don't scramble on 7-on-7s. Or wait, you should scramble on 7-on-7s because someone's going to give you a job because they're your buddy. So yeah, all right, there's my Tim Tebow rant. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I saw people trying to, say, hey, look, he's already throwing picks. Dude, he has to throw the ball. That's the point. It's to evaluate the cornerback and the wide receiver. Nobody gets nothing from it if Trey Lance just looks at it, sees his receiver fall, and holds the ball and doesn't throw it. There's nothing there. So that's why he had to throw it. Just wanted to clear that up real quick.
Yeah, and then something too, because I got a lot of the information I got were from an article Matt Barrows of The Athletic wrote. 49ers quarterback Trey Lance looks the part in his first practice.
There you go. Thank you for that. My bad. It was during the Patriots time. So okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good. You're good. And then I read Kawakami 5 observations from Trey Lance 49ers minicamp debut. Great articles if you want to read. Nice little quick things. Barrows had something interesting that he actually talked to. I don't know if he talked to, but he had quotes from Chargers quarterback Easton Stick, who was at North Dakota State before Trey Lance. And QBU, just like Santa Rosa Junior College is DBU. We're good. Stick said he doubts any college offense puts more duties on the quarterbacks in North Dakota State. And he also said they must do a full field progression on 5-step drops or other colleges only do portions of the field. So that's something too. Like people are like, oh, well, Trey Lance has only played X amount of college games. How much experience does he have? If what Stick is saying is true, is like, hey, the North Dakota State offense puts more duties on the quarterback than other colleges, and the 5-step drop full progression of the field. That's something that feels like screams Kyle Shanahan was just excited to get his hands on. I don't really have a point to make. I just thought it was interesting that Stick said that. It's just kind of good context for Trey Lance.
And I think that really what people, I saw some people saying, well, look, he's throwing the ball right in front of people. Okay, it's day one in camp, and he has media members in front of him. Do you really think that Kyle Shanahan in any way is going to show you how they intend to utilize Trey? Anything really cool? No. You get him the easy throws, you get him some oohs and ahs, and you get the reporters to say, Trey Lance looked fine. And then day 2 and day 3, when the media is not there, that's when you work on things where Trey may struggle, or not hit things as easily, right? So for the people that are saying, oh, well, they're not really asking him to do anything. No, they're not asking him to do anything in front of the media. They're asking him to do all of the things that they want him to do later on, because you do need to workshop those things. And you don't want the media to watch that, because if one person puts out an article saying, oh man, Trey Lance couldn't hit this throw, Trey Lance struggled here and there, then it starts to become an issue that becomes a snowball effect. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are too smart for that.
Yeah, they're both the smartest people in the room, and it's a large part as to why the 49ers are relevant again after 2 years of yeah.
One more thing. Hand up. All right. So today, Colin Cowherd had a long segment talking about how John and Kyle do not leak. Like, this did not leak, and they fooled the whole world into this Mac Jones thing. And he had an interesting perspective on this. I know this is going, off the rails a little bit, but
You're good.
this is a good discussion, I think. He explained in a way that he believes that anybody who got anything from their sources in the building was Mike Shanahan. Now, Mike Shanahan loses nothing by telling people, yeah, Kyle likes Mac. This is what he likes. And then when it's Trey, well, Kyle, he went and he changed it. Okay, so Kyle didn't lie to them. John didn't lie to them. It's okay to let Mike Shanahan lie to them because what? One, he's not in anybody's building. He's not going to be looking for any jobs. And he could also be the voice box for them to keep people up the scent. I thought that was really interesting today. Again, we had a tough time with the national media right now, right? Because they've completely botched this whole thing. But with him, at least anybody from Fox Sports, because Lynch came from there, it's a little bit more credible. Colin Cowherd's been wrong on plenty of things, and you can go down the list and go for it. I just thought this was interesting to bring up and talk about because it is kind of conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat type stuff that Mike Shanahan's the one leaking to Adam Schefter, to everybody else. Yeah, they really like Mac. Just something to think about. That's it.
And it helps that, you have your dad who is two-time Super Bowl winner as a head coach in the NFL. It's kind of like the Brett Favre thing is when Brett Favre says stuff, people listen for whatever ridiculous reason. Same thing with Mike Shanahan. When a former NFL coach is going to talk, especially and especially too, because I feel like if we're going to run with that conspiracy theory, it's and Mike Shanahan puts his name to it. I feel like then it becomes he's just saying things to say things now to help Kyle. And maybe that's why it was always anonymous sources and nobody really wanted to say anybody who it was. I think it's credible. I think it's a very credible thing. And I think it plays into what helps with having a dad who has been in the NFL is people are going to listen to him, especially when he's as successful as Mike Shanahan was. It's something that the Niners, if they haven't done it, it's definitely something they've thought about. I think that's for sure true, especially with how quiet they stay on these things.
Right. Yeah. Not to go off the rails or anything like that. Oh, thank you. Cynthia, thank you so much. Yes, the national media botched it. Yes, absolutely. Plus failed to admit their mistake. Correct. So apparently, everybody who is hashtagging pay Fred Warner, I don't think that they're I think they're underestimating their power, right? Because the fans, we pressured John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan into not taking Mac Jones.
We did. So we don't.
Podcast. No one fan base should have this power, and that's a Kanye reference in there as well too. But apparently, we can sway front offices from doing their job. So let's pressure them into paying Fred Warner because they listen to us so much.
Brad would want us to use that power to pressure him to get Julio Jones, right?
Oh, yes. Oh my God. Yes.
We're thinking too small, Jason. We're gonna get back. We're very much going on and off the tracks right now. I love
we are.
It keeps it fresh, fun.
Back to rookie camp.
Back to rookie camp. I want to read this whole quote from Kawakami from his article too, because I feel like if I just read what I have written down, it's going to sound really bad. Lance's throwing motion is smooth and complete. It's not a wrist or elbow quick twitch toss. This was clear from his college tape, but it's always good to get an in-person look. It's not like he's taking a big windup, but Lance always seems to bounce himself into square position and then unsling pure spirals mostly from over the top. If I had to compare it with recent quarterbacks, I'd say there's a Tom Brady, Andrew Luck element to it. Good balance, full shoulder turn, and deliveries look smooth but can come out sizzling. Lance best throw on Friday came in 7-on-7 when he looked away from his first read, adjusted his stance, and then powered two 15-25 laser beams of veteran tryout Marquise over the middle. And all I had written down was Kawakami said throwing motion smooth like Brady Luck, and I just all I could imagine was somebody going on Twitter like, wait, Kawakami said he looks like Brady and Luck, and like, no, I wanted to get the whole context in there. So that's, I don't know, man. Kawakami doesn't overstate things like that too often. He's not the guy who's gonna to make these comparisons just to make them. He's very straightforward with things like this, and if he thinks that's what it reminds you of, I think there's a little bit of truth to that.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to think about it like this. Scangarello was working with Lance. They saw something before that they knew they could fix, and it's clear that he's worked on that. Again, we have what we have from whatever clips we have. Again, day one, no media, but you can see that the throwing motion is different. It is. It's not so different. It's subtle, but it's different in the way that you really can't wind up in this league. If you wind up even a little, these players are too fast on the back end. These players are too fast in their coverages to get right over to where they need to be going. And that little millisecond is the difference between a completion or an interception or just a batted ball. So I'm glad that they worked with him, and it's clearly something that they emphasized to work with him with, and Scangarello's worked with him on. So again, nothing but good vibes coming out of the first day with Trey Lance. Again, get him some easy throws, get him some oohs and ahs in front of the media. Make sure that there's nothing negative that can be put out there. You literally couldn't write anything negative about Trey Lance. You couldn't. Yeah. It's impossible. And if you did, then you did it with malicious intent. There was nothing.
You're looking for those clicks. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's literally not what happened at all. So
yeah,
good vibes on the first day. Honestly, it was really cool to just see him be out there and throwing the ball. I was happy.
Any last thoughts? Because I actually read a pretty interesting Matt Barrows article too, and I kind of wanted to touch on that. Any final thoughts before we jump off specifically Trey Lance? Because this has to do with the rookies too.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Sermon, caught some passes underneath. Elijah Mitchell did as well. Not really too much more to take away from some clips that you saw on Twitter. It would be reactionary and overreactionary to make proclamations based on one or two clips that you saw on Twitter. Wait, matter of fact, what are we talking about? Here's the proclamation. Trey Lance is the greatest of all time, the greatest quarterback who's ever touched the football. And that's it. So there you go. If you wanted level-headed takes, you came to the wrong podcast. Trey Lance is the greatest quarterback who's ever played ever, and he's only had one practice in front of everybody else.
Yeah, you talk about overstating, talking about the OTA. I feel like 20 minutes on it is probably overstating enough. Us talking about it, hey, whatever. I mean, realistically, as I said, it's the first day of practice. It's I don't know, man. It's fun to look at. It's fun to watch, but kind of don't take it in any serious context. Just enjoy watching it. We don't need to break down things like his footwork, his arm, his hat, how he's moving in the pocket, things like that. Yeah, we don't need to break down things like that. That's okay. So Matt Barrows' article, actually, the one I wanted to talk about, and the reason it was interesting to me is he had an interview with 49ers top scout Adam Peters, and Peters kind of just talked about all the rookies, and it's really cool. It was about the big thing was Talanoa Hufanga. That was the kind of focus on the article, but then the article breaks up into different sections with all the rookies the Niners drafted, and kind of something Peter said. They started with Trey Lance, which I feel like we talked enough about Trey Lance. So I kind of wanted to I wrote down something I thought was interesting about each prospect. So if you want, I'll start and get your thoughts on them.
Andrew, I'm super excited. Go for it.
Dude, Leo and I do the Giants podcast, and Leo was writing stuff down. I'm like, do you take notes? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know why I don't do that. So I took notes. So the first one, second round pick, Aaron Banks. The Niners became more convinced on him the more they studied, which sounds like it makes sense. But the thing I found interesting, Notre Dame said, quote unquote, squat peak power, which measures how forcefully Banks could ascend from the squat, was in the rare class. So that's something interesting that Notre Dame was like, yeah, we track these guys squatting up, kind of like doing the thing. And he graded out elite or in the rare class. So I thought that was something fun. It's interesting. I mean, obviously a school's going to hype their guy up, but just to hear, I just wanted to say squat peak power on the podcast, and I did it. So I'm pretty happy.
That's honestly big, honestly. And realistically, when you look at who he replaced Quentin Nelson, who we largely, not just this podcast, largely believe is the best guard in football.
Yeah.
Easily at this point. And he's only been in the league 3 years. When you watch his film, when you watch him from the Senior Bowl, I had to go back and look myself because, again, when you're at the Senior Bowl, you're always looking for skill position guys. You never really watch, aside from Brad Graham, you never really watch offensive line. And he was there. And so was Jalen Moore. And when these clips start to come back out, Brad posted it. You see him combo blocking, putting up one block, and then getting to the second level and putting up another block, which is, again, more to exactly what the 49ers want to use him for, which is running the ball down the field, having him maybe come out and swing out and be a lead blocker because he's athletic enough. Just speak to what the 49ers want to do, and again, tipping their hand to what they want to do offensively, which is run the ball down your throat, and good luck trying to stop that.
Yeah, so the next one was a third-round pick, Trey Sermon. Midwest area scout Ryan Kesenich, which I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it, and a running backs coach Bobby Turner were both big proponents of Sermon. In Turner's mind, the only missing element he had was his lack of breakaway speed, and I don't think that's a huge issue. Like, breakaway speed's fun to have, for big runs, but like, I don't know, Niner fans really want Frank Gore back, and he didn't have the great. Frank Gore was the master of 40-yard runs because somebody would catch up from behind. So here's a young Frank Gore for everybody. He doesn't have great breakaway speed. That's okay. For everybody who wants to bring back Frank Gore. No, yeah.
I'm fine with it, honestly. Trey Sermon profiles like Frank Gore in that way. I just think that he just looks like one of those guys that, remember how there'll be like three guys around Frank Gore, and all of a sudden he just breaks a tackle, and then all of a sudden he's free. That's kind of what I see with Trey Sermon as well too. So yeah. Honestly, he is. You cannot arm tackle Trey Sermon. You cannot. It's impossible. You can't do that. So.
And part of the reason too they draft him is they like his receiving ability, so breakaway speed and whatever. Third round pick, defensive back Ambry Thomas. Quote, "They blew us away with how they really liked him and respected him." That was his Zoom call with Michigan's defensive back coach Corey Unlin. I don't know, that was like the most interesting thing to me is obviously these college guys are gonna hype up their guys like that to try and get them drafted. But for Adam Peters, for that to be like the big thing of what he took away meeting with them, Adam Peters hears that smoke all the time. And for him to say, hey, this is the thing I liked about Ambry's, how high they talked about him, that must mean Michigan was saying something he liked to hear. So take that as may.
You know what I really liked about Ambry Thomas was his confidence. When they asked him about the cost of living in the Bay Area and his eyes lit up, that's cool. You want to make a meme out of that, that's fine. But he said, I'm fine. My pockets will be fine. I'm going to make my money on the field. That's what you want to hear. That's not a prepared answer. That's not something that someone coached him to say. The kid's confident. You need confidence at this level, and he's showing it right now, so far. Again, you don't want to get too hyped over a press conference, over a 3-day camp, but you have to like how he's come out of the gate immediately and shown that confidence, whether it's a press conference or on field.
The next one we got four more, Jason. We're getting there.
Do your thing, Andrew. I'm loving this.
Offensive lineman Jalen Moore. I don't know. I wrote this one thinking of you, Jason. Senior Bowl was major part of his valuation. Quote, when you see a guy actually do it and do it well, that helps you be more comfortable with that projection. And I mean, that's why like the Senior Bowl is important is not only, you could say you've had an entire year to watch these guys. But it's different when you get to see them in person, and it's cool that the Senior Bowl gives these players with no more chances to show what they have, to give them a chance to show what they have. So I don't know. I thought it was cool, especially with you attending the Senior Bowl. Thought it was fun.
No, and one more thing also, I think that the Senior Bowl gets kind of understated when you think about it like this. These guys are showing up, and they're showing up to be coached by an NFL coach who is throwing a playbook at their feet right there in front of them. So when guys go out there and they play well, that shows a grasp of quickly learning something that they need to do, and also shows that they're ready to compete against guys that are going to be. Remember, how many people got drafted from the Senior Bowl, let alone from the 49ers? It almost felt like anybody who went to the Senior Bowl ended up getting drafted. So when you show that you can be thrown a playbook, you can learn it fast, execute it, that's kudos to you, because in certain spots, Banks is going to be asked to start, I believe. He's going to have to learn this immediately. Jalen Moore actually really impressed, especially when I went back and I watched. But again, when I was there, Brad Graham is the man with linemen, and I always go to him and I talk to him, and he's the one who continues to post those clips. But it's tough to watch linemen. You're always looking for the next big breakout wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, running back, at least in my mind. But he really went out there and he performed very well. Another athletic guy, a little bit more of a project, I think, than Banks is. But honestly, again, depth is wealth. and you want to make sure that you have as many young guys under contract that are cost controlled as you can, especially if they can make an impact soon.
Guy we already talked about a little bit, cornerback Diamador Lenore, and this one I thought was actually pretty interesting. Peters agreed that Lenore was a bit like DJ Reed, as in they're both extremely tough, competitive guys, but Peters thinks Lenore has a better ability to play on the outside than Reed. I don't know why I wrote DJ Moore, and I said DJ Moore. I meant DJ Reed. DJ Reed, the former 49ers defensive back. He said they're both extremely tough and competitive guys, but he thinks Diamador Lenore has a better ability to play on the outside than DJ Reed. Let me fix that. So
that's what I was going to say, is that Lenore kind of profiles as K1 Williams' replacement. But from what I took away from that one-on-one with Austin Watkins, who plays outside, he's not a slot guy, was that maybe this guy is strong. He pressed the hell out of Watkins. You know, Watkins is an avid hard worker. You can tell that he was not flustered, but he was frustrated with that, because that doesn't happen to him very often. That's a big man. For you to be able to do that so quickly, honestly, man, that really shows some sort of flexibility, and it doesn't pigeonhole you as the slot corner or anything like that. He's going to show that sort of flexibility. And in a year that I worry more about the cornerback room, not the secondary, the cornerback room, than anything, it's really good that he's showing that right now, because he may be pressed into duty. Again, God forbid Jason Verrett gets injured. Things get hairy at cornerback, man. Like, look, we love Ambry Thomas. We love these moves, but can you count on it? Can you? And you can be optimistic all you want. I am, but it doesn't mean that that's something you can set your watch to. So it's good to see that Lenore can do both. And that's just another testament to how well this front office nailed this draft, honestly.
The main focus of the article, and they talked about him first, Talanoa Hufanga. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that right. The Niners don't have to pronounce it. Hufanga, perfect. I'm happy. And this one to me was pretty interesting because, I don't know, it's kind of an insight to how the 49ers grade their players, and different levels of grades they have. Shanahan and Lynch both loved him. He earned the gold helmet designation, which means he's oh man, I knew I was going to mess up on this word. Exemplary. There we go. Got it. Exemplary. I'm going to say that. In a number of areas, including leadership and intelligence. Heading into the draft, the Niners only gave about 15 to 20 players that gold helmet designation. The only two players the Niners got with that designation were Hufanga and Trey Lance.
Hey, I mean, Hufanga, again, when you look at the secondary, you look at the safety position. Our guy Kwaski, 1-year deal. Moore and Harris, both not under contract. Again, clearly looking for one of those players that can roam the box, maybe even play a little will linebacker and things like that. And yeah, you need a hitter in the box. He profiles exactly with what this team is going to need down the road. So again, I know we talked about this before, but yeah, I mean, that's all good vibes when you hear all those things from people that we really respect that were at camp.
And then the last one was just very, I don't know, for Elijah Mitchell, the note I thought this one was super interesting. Probably my favorite note from the whole thing. The Niners had a 5th round grade on Elijah Mitchell. They opted to go with Jalen Moore in the 5th round because they also had a 5th round grade and felt like he was a bigger need. The Niners approached their final selection thinking they needed a linebacker. And Peter said he went to DeMeco Ryans, the new defensive coordinator, for his opinion. And he said, quote, and even DeMeco, he's looking up there and we're watching Elijah Mitchell on film. And he said, well, you should take this guy. He's pretty good. So the Niners actually got DeMeco Ryans permission to go get Elijah Mitchell because they probably said, hey, our last pick, we're going to go get linebacker help. And then they're like, Elijah Mitchell's probably too good to pass up at this point. Are you cool with this?
Yeah, I am, honestly. Look, again, Jeff Wilson Jr., Raheem Mostert not under contract. Elijah Mitchell profiles as someone who can fill that Raheem Mostert, role. As Jordan pointed out yesterday on our live together, though, man, he's so smart, man. I think it's a little bit of a disservice or a knock, like he said. It's a little bit of a knock to say that Elijah Mitchell is exactly like Raheem Mostert, because I think that downplays what Raheem Mostert does. Seeing the hole, hitting it, and hitting it with the vision and the speed to do that. I think Elijah Mitchell offers more in the pass game, I think, more than anything as well, too. So, again, this 49er team built for right now and the future based on all of these things. Again, nobody likes 2 running backs in the same draft, but when you look at it, you really needed to fill this running back room, especially with an extra game. You need to make sure you have as many people under contract that you can have that's possible, so you can avoid what happened last year. Honestly.
Yeah. And
Tony, thank you. Tony, thank you, man.
Hafunga is easier to say than exemplary.
Exemplary.
Anyways, yeah, and it's something too. If Jordan's watching, he's gonna love hearing this. When we talk about Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon, one of the things we say is the receiving ability. We're just getting a step closer to positionless football at this point. It's that the same idea with the Jalen Hurd pick is like, hey, he can play running back, he can play receiver. If we're getting real wild, we could put him at tight end. And I think that's just what Shanahan likes. I mean, you see it with Deebo Samuel, right? They use him very sparingly out of the backfield. They like guys who can play different things and do different things. So that's something to note with those guys too. So the Niners drafted those running backs with plans. This wasn't like, oh, we're going to get 2 running backs because we want 2 running backs. They got 2 running backs because they probably have some ideas how they could use them. So
absolutely. 49ers nailed this draft when it comes to their depth and their future and what's ready for right now. So this team's ready to compete also while putting themselves in position to be good down the line, regardless, because, unfortunately we love players, but they come and go. That's just how this league is.
It's how it is. Jason, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, honestly, I can't wait for more camp. We had 80 players show up to OTAs, which was extraordinary. It shows the focus in this building. And, it shows that a lot of people want to make sure that they get their check, for showing up to voluntary OTAs too. I don't want to make sure that that's lost. But when you see all of the leaders on this team out there, you see Kittle out there, it's good to see. And this team looks like they're locked in. They look like they're ready to go. Can't wait for more news on camp. Can't wait for more to ramp up. But this team looks like they're doing all the right things at this point. So 80 players showing up shows that there is a large message in this locker room. The culture is as intact as it's ever been. And guys are locked in on what they need to do. So exciting times as 49ers fans, guys.
Is it also an exciting time to be a Yankee fan? Because they've turned it around a little bit, huh?
Oh, have they? Nah, I'm just, when we take over first place is when I'm really going to go crazy, because people on the timeline, they always want to, come for you, especially, with the news of this Derek Jeter documentary, which I'm going to be very vocal against anybody who has anything negative in any way to say about Derek Jeter. Not going to block anybody, but please, I am going to be coming at you with facts. You weren't there. You weren't outside. You don't know the vibes. I can do the gatekeeper stuff too, just like they do with me being a Jersey fan and as a 49er fan. I was not outside in Candlestick. I don't know anything about them because I've never been to a 49ers home game. Same thing that I'm going to use against you 49er fans that are going crazy on my guy Jeets.
Speaking of guys who haven't earned their pinstripes, John Carlos. No, I'm joking.
End the show.
All right. I guess my thought on baseball is, your favorite team doesn't have the best record in baseball? Can't relate. As always, Jason Aponte.
Let's go Niners.
Let's go Warriors.